Sometimes close friendships fall apart, and even though you try to work on them and accommodate the other person's quirks, their behavior drives you crazy. You try talking about it, but it only leads to more fighting. You try ignoring the problem, but it only gets worse. And after a while, you can't tell if they're the unreasonable one or you are. So then what do you do? In this video, I respond to a letter from a woman I'll call Elena, and she writes, "Dear Fairy, I'm 30 years old. For almost 6 years, I was best friends with another student I met studying abroad. We moved back to the countries where we originally studied, but I visited her often wherever she lived at the moment." All right, I've got my fairy pencil. I'm going to circle things I want to come back to on a second reading, but let's see what's going on with Elena. "We kept in touch on a daily basis, supported each other in difficult life situations, and shared everything with each other, despite the geographical distance. Later, some problems in our dynamic manifested. One was the different lifestyle. I'm happily married. I've been going to therapy for 4 years, and I had a stable academic career that I recently left for a new project. Meanwhile, all of this happened. I observed my friend cheating on her romantic partners, but never taking accountability for her actions. Instead, she got angry when called out by her lovers and friends, all while feeling spiritually enlightened and superior through yoga and meditation. I also observed that it was very important to her to always be more attractive than other women, even close female friends. Obviously, even when I supported her, she could feel my disapproval or uneasiness with how she treats other people. Understandably, she distanced herself from me and shared less and less. Things got worse. Every time she traveled to Europe, where I live, she became unreliable in her planning, so that she never actually visited me, but only other people who could keep up with her sudden, 'I'm here, where are you?' Only when I visited her, it worked out. When I complained about this beforehand, because I really wanted to receive her, have her visit me, she said I gave her too much pressure. She even argued I was impatient and explosive. For context, she grew up fatherless with a very explosive mother, and she often projected that trauma onto me. So whenever I expressed I was hurt or worried, she shut down, immediately calling me aggressive. I have to add here that most people in my life perceive me as to be self-critical, and it's reflected in my communication, beating myself up and feeling constant guilt. Also, no one else ever had a problem visiting me from abroad and staying communicative during the conflict. Last time she came to Europe, she was as chaotic as always, and this time I told her that I can't accept how she's more reliable with men who casually use her for sex, with their time. She is respectful instead of being reliable with me, who is actually waiting for her and always being there. She asked me to keep quiet. "Stop it," she repeated. I then told her I can't keep up a friendship like this and that I would like to find either real closure ending the friendship or a mature conversation about our problems, not something in between. She acted as if the very clear expression of my needs was totally cryptic. That offended me the most since I know how to express myself clearly. So I told her I give up trying to be communicative and that it's on her now to tell me what can be done. Because of this, she stonewalled me without any warning or explanation. I wrote another email to her, again trying to either reflect the conflict with her or end the friendship on clear terms. Okay, so ultimatum. But she went on holidays with other friends, enjoying her life, telling me she had no other choice because we were not on good terms. She said it was her birthday week, so she had the right to have fun, and that therefore I was the problem for even mentioning the conflict. She even laughingly told me she understands why some people in the past abandoned me. But for me, a healthy friendship is a space where conflict and pain can be addressed and where criticism, in her words, judgment, is no taboo, even during a birthday or holiday week. But I know a lot of people don't allow any criticism in friendships. What do you think about that? What is friendship if not a safe space even within criticism? I'm really never allowed to comment on someone's behavior toward me while still holding their hand. Even when I doubted or seemingly ended our friendship, I would never just disappear without a word, but always keep a door open for closure or repair. And I always explained myself, but in the end, she gave me the silent treatment for 10 more months. Only interrupted by uninvested, lazy answers that came out of nowhere. When I told her that stonewalling is abusive, she picked that out from my long, otherwise loving email, telling me how insulting that is, how I am the real stonewaller, and how I have no softness. In her perspective, whenever I express concerns, what actually happens is that I have anger issues and that I'm very judgmental. There is no way for her that my feelings might have reasons she could have anything to do with. She perceives herself as a very soft-spoken, calm person who never judges, and she feels superior because of that. But in fact, I was the one waiting for months, not knowing if she would ever call me back to have a reciprocal understanding. She only briefly showed up whenever she wanted, otherwise ignoring me just like that. She never felt it's a bad thing. Isn't that aggressive behavior too? She was only able to engage in a small forced conversation with me when I delivered the narcissistic supplies she needed. Ooh, that's quite a label. Okay. Telling her how perfect she is. Strangely, she then accused me of the very things she herself did: stonewalling, bad communication skills, lack of accountability. Then she started gaslighting me into believing that she already said sorry, not even knowing what for. When I know for a fact she never said sorry, but only if I just accepted all of this gaslighting like a submission-beaten dog. Whoa, heavy words. She would finally feel safe with me and talk to me again. That's where I couldn't take it anymore and truly gave up. The friendship is now over. I start to believe that for her, it might have been about power, not closeness. I'd love to hear your insights on the following question. Do I have a warped sense of friendship because of my own trauma, where my parents kept avoiding healthy communication, so that nowadays I falsely assume one has to talk about conflicts at all costs? All right. Thank you, Elena. This is a quality question, and I think a lot of people here share this. And I think a lot of us have been in your shoes, and a lot of us have had friends like your friend. So I circled things I wanted to come back to. So let me first talk about your friend. She lives in the moment. She cheats on her partners. She doesn't seem to take accountability for her actions. So I guess what you're saying is she cheats but doesn't show remorse. And she feels that she's enlightened and superior through yoga and meditation. Somehow I think that might be like what you see in her, but I don't know if she's actually said, look, I'm better than everybody because I do yoga and meditation. I totally know what you're talking about, but because we want to understand what's going on here and possibly what your role in it is, I'm going to just kind of say, well, I hear a lot of your anger in this, and I don't blame you for being angry, but I'll just say where I hear it there. You're trying to say, like, matter-of-factly, she just feels superior because of what she does. And you may have seen some of my videos about how New Age myths can, like, keep you single. It is a way that people can gaslight themselves, with this, it's all good, and I go with the wind, and I'm just, you're too much in your head stuff. That if I'm reading between the lines, your friend is basically criticizing you for not having the same values and then going on to say, hey, but I don't judge you. All right. There might be a little bit of that going on both sides, though. But before we talk about your part in it, which is the part that you can change, I'm just going to tell you what I observe and what you told me. So even when you supported her, she could feel my disapproval or uneasiness with how she treats other people. And so she distanced herself. And so one thing that I think might be unrealistic here is that it sounds a little bit like a lover's quarrel. And I know you're just friends, and you're married, but it sounds like you have this, it's as if you've taken a vow. In your mind, it's as if she's taken a vow to like you just as much as you like her, and to be there for you just as much as you are there for her. And she's not. She keeps just saying, look, I'm not like that. I go with the wind. I'm doing my own thing. I can't be pinned down. I can't say for certain if I'm going to visit you. And it reminds me a little bit, forgive me, it reminds me a little bit of my relationship with my mother when she was still alive. She lived in another state. She would come to my, town and to visit a friend of hers. And one time she stayed all summer and she just never made time to see me. And I'll just tell you, for me, I won't project, but I'll just tell you, for me, I really disapproved of what she was doing. She was drinking heavily. She was on drugs. She had this little entourage of young people who I think were drug dealers, and I was really judgmental about it. And I felt let down. My sister was having a baby that summer, and we were throwing a shower, and my mom showed up late and drunk. And So, so she kind of iced me out of her life, but she would never say like she was doing that. So I couldn't help but wonder if, she's so deeply engaged in stuff that she knows darn well is not okay with you, that she just doesn't want to hear what you think about it, so she hides from you. She doesn't want to hear what you think about her boyfriend patterns and her lack of accountability and the woo-woo stuff she says to justify her behavior. And so I've had a lot of time. My mom's been gone for 30 years now. I've had a lot of time to think about it. And honestly, I regret being so judgmental on her. Since then, I've learned a lot about her alcoholism. Your friend, it sounds like, I don't know, maybe a sex addict or something. Trauma-driven. I can see she's trauma-driven. And she sounds very self-centered or selfish, not being considerate of your time and your plans, which is a lot like an alcoholic, actually. But I think sometimes when people are doing that, either, you had said narcissistic supply. She could be a narcissist, and which would mean she's not capable of being any other way, or she could be some kind of addict to relationships or substances, in which case, at least right now, she's not capable of being any other way. And so this is something I've learned with people who are just stuck like that. It's just like a huge waste of energy to have this vision of how they should be and how a reciprocal relationship would be, and to hold on. And we talk about this kind of romantic relationship dynamic often, of where, how many letters have I gotten from people who were quite in love with somebody. They got together and gradually realized that person was incapable of giving back anything like love, commitment, consideration, but the bond continues. And so sometimes traumatized people, and at the very end, you tip your hand that, yeah, you had had some stuff here. Your parents avoided healthy communication. So I don't know much about your childhood, but the way that you're sort of leaping to, I'm her good friend, why is she not mine? I hear in a lot of stuff she says that she's, if we, this is going to borrow language from romantic relationships, she's just not that into you. She doesn't seem very committed to the friendship. She maybe doesn't want to let you down, or she wants to sort of keep some kind of tether on the relationship so it doesn't completely go away, but she doesn't want to look in the eyes of somebody who sees what she's doing. So that's what I see is going on. And for somebody like that, yes, your criticism, and you say, can't you criticize a friend? It's like, you can, and you have. And she has basically told you, look, I don't care that you feel that way. I'm not going to change. It's your problem. That's kind of what she's saying. And so how I see it from the outside is, yeah, that's the message for you to sit with and go, how do you want to proceed now? And I think you don't want to be friends with somebody who does that. But I also hear you continuing to hold out hope that this can be repaired. Let me just talk about some stuff that you said that I think might have triggered things a little bit, just so you can learn from this experience, and possibly one day there will be, some repair. We'll see. So it's where you judge her for thinking she's superior. So she's got her, her spirituality, her yoga and meditation, and she aspires at least to not be judgmental, and she wants to be a free spirit. And it's actually like everybody has a choice of how they want to be. And even if she's like lying to people and cheating on them, that is very unseemly, but it's not a felony. And it's really just up to you whether you want to be friends with somebody like that. You've registered your displeasure about it. And beyond that, it's up to you to decide, do you accept her? It sounds like what you're waiting for is for her to apologize to you for doing things that make you feel hurt and disappointed, and then she'll change and you can have the friendship. But I just think she's pretty much okay with herself where she is. And we know that behind the scenes, I'm sure there's a lot of pain there, but I've been in her shoes too. Sometimes, when we're doing something wrong, we just don't want people to look at us. We don't want to look at them in the eye. So when you said she grew up fatherless with a very explosive mother, that does explain it. Projected her trauma, maybe. I don't have background on why you think so. It sounds like her trauma is just playing out in her life. I certainly hear that. So whenever I expressed I was hurt or worried, she shut down, immediately calling me aggressive. And so I wasn't there, and I can't hear your tone, but I'll just tell you about something you can decide for yourself if you think it applies to you. I have this word I made up after a friend kept expressing concern for me about stuff that was actually not a problem. And it was very weird. And I made up the word concern shaming. And it was really like a backhanded way to criticize me and go, well, it was a time I was going through a hard time. It was early in my marriage, and we were having a hard time settling into, we were having power struggles and connection, struggles. Felt like he wasn't paying enough attention. He felt like I was demanding too much, and stuff that in the scheme of things is kind of a normal thing in a marriage, and certainly in the first part where you're figuring out how it all is going to work. And so I was feeling down about it, and my friend said, I'm just very concerned about you. You're always so down. And it wasn't true that I was always so down. There was nothing to be concerned about. It was just my life, and I was confiding in my friend. And I was really hurt about that. And sure enough, what soon followed is she just totally severed the relationship. And never has explained why. I think she thinks she did. She sort of said, well, I just couldn't go on. I have no idea what that was about. We had been very close. But when I look back, I would say that person was had a very weak identity. The center wasn't there. I think that I have had a pretty strong self-identity for a pretty long time. And so people more recently in my life, if they didn't have one, I think whenever we're around people who are stronger like that, there's a risk that we'll just try to be like them or get their approval or, this approval game. And I think women play this game with each other. I fit in with you. I approve of you. You're my friend. I like you. We dislike them, but we like each other. And that's a thing that it's toxic. It's normal, but it's toxic, and it always leads to like in-out games. And you guys are having an in-out game. You don't like how she lives. I thought it was interesting that she perceives you as aggressive when you expressed you were hurt or worried, and she said it was aggressive. Now, with my friend, I felt it was aggressive too, and to this day, I don't think she understands that. But I thought it was critical, and it wasn't direct or honest. Because really what she could have said is, I just don't like what you're doing. How you are right now is not okay with me. That's the truth of it. So there is a time to express concern for people if they seem to be struggling or going off the rails or getting into trouble, about to get catfished and lose all their money. It's fair to express concern to friends, but I would just say it never goes well, and especially if you haven't used the most kindest, most delicate way of putting it with them, with the least amount of information necessary to explain what the concern is. That's what I've learned about people. And the way I grew up, it was like no communication or total explosion at home. So I relate to you and your friend in that respect. I didn't know right away. So that often happened to me too, where I would be sort of just trying to creep along and not have to make too big a deal about things that I didn't like or didn't agree with. And then one day, boom, I'd flip and blow up. That's how a lot of female friendships have ended in my life, especially before I learned how to heal. And when I started healing, I think that I stopped choosing women friends who matched, and male companions who matched where I was in my healing at that point, which is not very far, not very able to be comfortable in my own skin and know what my boundaries were and be able to state them gently and not be angry when somebody couldn't deal with my boundaries. There's nothing to be angry about. It's just time to go. That's all. So we can start to have acceptance and more peace in our hearts about how people, they just don't really conform to what we want or expect. You have a choice about whether you categorize how you would like her to be as a want or as a need. And you talk about needs, but not everything is a need. I would encourage you to use that need word very sparingly, because it's a lot of pressure on a friendship to try to make them meet your needs. I would call it boundaries, just like I have preferences. I don't like to hang out with people who are dishonest with others. You don't even have to tell them that. You just have to know that for yourself. Right? When you go ahead and go, you're being dishonest, you have a long friendship. So that's fair game. But once you say it and they reject it, it doesn't make sense to keep telling them. It's really just, kind of beating a dead horse. They have the information. And if you remember how hard it is to be criticized, it comes, just even a small thing like, you'll remember it all right. And she does not have an obligation to change for you. She's not accountable to you in the kind of life she lives. So some people hearing this, that may come as shocking news, but it's true. There are some relationships where people are accountable, parent to child. Parents are definitely accountable to take care of their children well, and spouses. And then depending on the level of commitment made in a non-marriage relationship, we make promises for a reason to each other, and we're expected to keep those promises. Friends are generally a strictly voluntary arrangement, and people change and evolve. The thing about traumatized people, they can change quite a lot for the better and for the worse. So I think that's what you're seeing right now. And the friendship isn't working anymore because of the way you're growing apart. You've gone this very stable route. She's gone this rather unstable route. When you tried to express yourself clearly, you gave her an ultimatum, and she had said, stop it. She asked you to keep quiet. She didn't want to hear your ultimatum about either work this out with me or let's end the friendship. So I just want you to be aware, you get to have that ultimatum, but if you really, don't make threats you don't intend to carry out. An ultimatum is a threat. I'm going to end this friendship unless you comply with what I'm saying I need from you. And she's not doing it. So she's given you her answer. And finding real closure, I think that closure word is pretty misleading. When you're dealing with somebody who's non-communicative or outright abusive or, doesn't want to talk to you, there is no closure. Closure is to stop having contact, to let go. You're very strong, and you can heal around that hole in your life that is left when somebody you were close to leaves. It's painful. It's called loss. But closure doesn't always require more conversation. It sounds like you guys have had conversation. I've met people where somebody abandoned them very close to a wedding they were supposed to have and never spoke to them again, and they never knew why it happened. That would be something where a person deserves closure and could ask for it, but I'd still say, oh gosh, proceed with caution. A person who would do that to you, this could be emotionally quite painful, dangerous, unstable, harsh, an invitation to get depressed. But I understand the need for information. You have information. You have talked about your conflicts with her. You're saying a healthy friendship is a space where conflict and pain can be addressed, and where criticism, or what she calls judgment, is not taboo, even during a birthday or holiday week. Yeah, in a healthy friendship, but that's not what you have. So there it is. You just don't have that. And so that's what I would encourage you, Elena, to accept is, you don't get to keep demanding that she become that kind of friend to you. She isn't that kind of friend. For whatever reason, she can't produce what you're looking for. She's not into it. She can't deal. I don't know, but the answer is no, she's not there. She's not that kind of friend. So it's good that you know what a healthy friendship is so that you can be discerning with your other friends and with new friendships that are going to form in your life. And actually getting out of a friendship that's so unhappy for you it's lonely at first, but then you know what comes? A step up. You learn something, you have some space in your life, and something better can happen. So that's really exciting. I heard you say, am I never really allowed to comment on someone's behavior toward me while still holding their hand? So what I hear is she's not asking you to hold her hand. And you're holding her hand. You want the friendship, and you want her to change. So I understand, but I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's your right, if you will. And she's given you her answer with her flippant non-answer. Yeah, so some of the things that she said to you, you could just discard what she said if you want, but it might be worth looking at in a safe way with a therapist or a friend who really does love you, or your husband. When she says that you have no softness, is that true? It could, maybe. I think softness is a lifelong skill we develop. Not weakness, but basically a kind heart where we have compassion even towards people who are screwing up. I've known such people who are really extraordinary that way. I can be that way towards people I don't know, but in my life, when people let me down, it's hard for me to be soft-hearted. I get a reflex to be hard-hearted and be like, this has to be this way. So I relate to you, but I know that I am not as soft as I would like to be with people I love. Another thing you said about she thinks she's superior. So that's that part where you feel that she thinks she's superior, whether she said so or not, that's resentment. And it's okay that you feel resentful, but one thing you can do to start setting yourself free from dwelling on this and kind of churning in your mind about it is to start facing that resentment. And my tool for that is the daily practice. techniques. And that's a free course. You can always get it down in the description section below or on my website. It's free, you can learn it, but this is the most powerful thing I teach, is a way to get the anxious and angry thoughts processed. Because with trauma, we're not very good at that. We get it processed and on paper and out of our heads, and we start to have some spaciousness in here to think, what do I want to do now? Do I even want to be friends with this person? Yes, no. We have choices. And everything can work much better when we're not driven by, this tenacious resentment about things that have already happened, that we already have no solution to. And we're told, people say, just let it go. Well, how? You do it with paper. So you can check that out if you like. When you were saying she only briefly showed up, it was very telling when you said she was very, respectful of strange dude's time who she was having some hookup with. Yeah, there you go. That could be a sex addict. And then she didn't care about you. And people who are acting in a compulsive manner like that, whether it's a personality disorder or addictive behavior, who knows? You might have a better handle on that than me, and people in the comments, I'm sure, will have opinions. But I try not to do that. I try to just say, for you, it feels like BS. It's just like right in your face that she does that, and it's not acceptable to you. And so is it aggressive behavior? No, I think it's, from what you're telling me, I don't think it's aggressive. Like, her intention isn't to say, hey, screw you. Her intention is like somewhere else, and she just doesn't care. She's basically indifferent to your feelings and numb to the effect her actions have on you. Sadly, but that's what happens with traumatized people who haven't healed yet. So I hear a lot of anger here of talking about she gaslit you, narcissistic supply, gaslighting like a submissive, beaten dog, that you accepted all the gaslighting. So I hear a lot of self-attack, and that's what you said you do. People think you're very hard on yourself. Usually people who are hard on themselves are hard on other people too. So maybe she's picking that up. Overall, being hard on yourself or others is not ideal. And when we're hard on ourselves, that is resentment at self. And it's the same thing where we have this idea, I should be like this. And there's nothing wrong with having an ideal for yourself. But when it's used to just beat yourself up, it's not productive, is it? It could be counterproductive. And so the goal of healing around that, around somebody like you who is very motivated to have a good life, to get it right, to be a responsible person, to care for your friendships, to do that, then is to start releasing the fearful, resentful thinking where you think everybody should have that same ability that you have and the same goal that you have, and they just don't. Take it from me. And I used to, I've been humbled a little bit. I won't assume that's true for you, but I've been humbled. I used to think that in so many ways I had it go. I just was more accomplished or organized than other people, but time soon came and showed me. The trauma came and got me in the end, and I wasn't more accomplished or organized than other people. And I remember the slow process of just realizing that even, people who I didn't used to think had it very together at all, had it more together than me. And so in the end, that's been a softening experience. I think that's what softness is. It's humility to realize there's goodness and humanity in everybody, but that doesn't mean we have to be friends with them. We can be kind, we can be tolerant, but that doesn't mean we have to let them come stay at our house or go take vacations with them. So I hope that helps you. I don't think she wanted power. I think she wants something that is unrelated to you. That's my take on it. She doesn't want power. She's chasing love, and she's chasing a feeling of being okay and not empty. And she's sort of just like crashing over everything in her path. I've been there. And I'm grateful to all the people who didn't totally cut me out of their life forever, but they sure did for a while, and that's okay. That was fair. So I hope this is helpful to you and to many people listening to this. And for anybody who wants to focus on developing friendship skills, I have this very nice little download that I created called How to Be a Better Friend, and it's right here. And you can download it. It's free right there, and I'll see you very soon.